Elon Musk bought Twitter. There's the obligatory mention. Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Cam, and welcome to another episode of the Life in the Movies podcast. It is Wednesday. You all know what that means. One of your co-hosts, like I said, my name is Ryan Cam. We're recording this on the day that Elon Musk did buy Twitter for $44 billion. Craziness. And so it's like, it feels like if you don't mention it, people would be like, why didn't you mention it? So there's the mention. But on this week's episode, we're going to be talking some Moon Knight, some Daredevil. We're going to be talking about the recent plight of Netflix, how it lost a lot of money and a lot of subscribers, and just kind of unpacking that whole situation. But first, I got to introduce my co-host, the man, Jacob Martin. Jacob, how are you, sir?
I am doing crazy good today. I'm excited to talk about everything about the Marvel stuff. I'm excited about sharing the movie stuff, everything. I always enjoy hopping aboard your podcast, and I can't wait to talk about some exciting stuff this week. Life's been good over on my end. It's been pretty normal over on my end. Nothing real crazy has happened in the past week. I saw a couple movies in theaters. I'm excited to share my thoughts on those. And it's just all around been an exciting week, and I'm excited to share some exciting things movie wise. Ryan, how's your week been?
My week's been pretty good. I'm still training for the Great Salt Lake swim that I'm going to be in June. I'm swimming 20 minutes per night in my pool, and it's been it's been really nice. I used to love to swim. I didn't swim for a really long time. I think it was because I was kind of heavy, and so it just body wise, it just didn't look good on me. But now I can't wait to get in the pool. It's like the thing that I look forward to the most in the day. And I've been training by just trying to swim 20 minutes consistently because it's a mile swim. And I looked up online that you're looking to do it in about 35 minutes. So I'm starting at 20 and then I'm going to work my way slowly to 35. So it's been a really interesting experiment, but I'm feeling really good about myself, and I'm just jazzed to get to Utah and execute the thing.
Yeah, I'm excited to learn more about your progress on the whole thing. Definitely let us know, whether on social media or on the podcast, about your progress on this swim and your meet with Rachel. It's some exciting stuff coming ahead your way.
Yeah, absolutely. And on top of that, I had a busy weekend. I ended up seeing a production of Fiddler on the Roof
Nice.
at my local theater. It was the national tour, and predictably, it was really good. Uh, Fiddler on the Roof, I'm a sucker for. It's one of my favorite musicals of all time. It doesn't matter if it's large scale or small scale. If you say Fiddler on the Roof, I'm like, go on. Like it's one of those things where I'm just a sucker for. It's a classic story, and the performers dedicated the show to everything going on in the Ukraine, which, considering the end of that movie and considering what's going on in the Ukraine, it's a very sad situation, but there you go. I guess I'll round it out by saying Fiddler on the Roof is it's just one of the best musicals ever made.
Yeah, I have seen the movie version of Fiddler on the Roof a couple times, and it is a fantastic movie all around. I especially love that the music was scored by John Williams, which is like the extra icing on the cake on why the movie is so awesome. And I have to respect the movie too, because it's very fun and lighthearted, like the first half of the movie. And then there's like a crazy tonal shift just before the intermission. And normally, when you have a movie that would go lighthearted to like very dark and grim in the second half, that would come off a bit jarring and unfocused. But I think Fiddler on the Roof made it work. And I think it's a fantastic story with some well rounded characters, some really good themes of culture in there that's really fun to see explored. And I do like the compelling story that it does bring related to that and the history surrounding this group of people. I'm glad you got to see this show. It sounds really awesome. I haven't seen too many musical theater shows, unfortunately. I've seen an occasional one there too. I've only just seen some like local musical stuff. I know I went to a local theater about 2.5 hours away from where I live. They put on a show called Ring of Fire, which is centered around Johnny Cash music. And I'm a big fan of Johnny Cash, and I thought they did a great job of paying tribute to Johnny Cash and singing some incredible songs. I know, I think a couple weeks from now, or maybe it's next weekend at the time of this video, my local high school is doing a live production of one of my favorites, The Wizard of Oz. I might go see that depending on the timing and scheduling because I'm a big fan of that story. So, yeah, you always want to go support your musical productions. They put on a good job regardless of whether it's national or local. Like there's talented people involved in these productions, and it's always neat to try to give them some love.
Yeah, absolutely. It goes double for me because I grew up in that world, like from the time I was in like kindergarten to the end of high school and even into college. I was involved in theater in some capacity. Like I pretty much did most everything except maybe the technical side. I didn't do so much of that, but I was ensemble, I was a semi main character, and I was even the lead. So I guess you can say I worked my way up, and I know all the theater cliches, I know all the lingo. It was a very formative time in my life. So seeing Fiddler the on Friday night, it brought back a lot of memories. A lot of very positive memories.
Yeah, it's good to hear. I love that story, like I've said.
Well, anyway, let's dig into some stuff that we've been watching lately and paying attention to your channel, Jacob. I saw you recently reviewed The Accountant, which is a movie that I love to pieces.
Yeah, I have actually never seen The Accountant before, which is crazy because people have talked about how that's a good movie. I just never got around to seeing it. I decided, April is what's considered Autism Awareness Month or Autism Acceptance Month, depending on where you stand on that. I kind of prefer acceptance personally. Uh, so I figured I should probably tackle a movie with an autistic character front and center, and that's what The Accountant is. The main character, Ben Affleck's character, has high functioning autism. And honestly, considering I've seen so many movies where autism hasn't really been tackled well, look no further than Shane Black's The Predator. I thought they did a good job with Ben Affleck's character and the character study that he does have. Somebody who struggled with autism, but thanks to some good training, he's learned to overcome, not really overcome, but accept that he has it while being a very skilled accountant and marksman. I really do like the character study surrounding that. And I think the performances and setup of the story overall, I especially like the scenes with Affleck's character and Anna Kendrick. Those were some of the best moments of the movie for me. I just like seeing those characters click and bond and interact in this environment. I honestly wish the movie was more of a character study than an action film. It became more action heavy in the second half of the movie. And not that it was bad, it was well crafted because you got Gavin O'Connor responsible for the fight sequences, and I liked the choreography. But I just didn't find it near as compelling or interesting as the character study stuff, which it's interesting. I guess I guess the final twist related to what happens. They set up John Bernthal as a character who's antagonistic to Ben Affleck, and where that leads, I thought was pretty cool. But I didn't care for the action side of the movie near as much as the character drama related to Ben Affleck's character. But that's just me personally. I still enjoyed the movie overall. I think it's probably my least favorite film I've seen from Gavin O'Connor. I've only seen this, Warrior and Miracle, and I liked those other two movies a lot more. But this one is still not bad. I recommend it just to see a pretty well respected take on autism related to Ben Affleck's character. I thought Ben Affleck was terrific, but the action side is what I think drag the movie down a little bit, but that's just me personally.
I agree with that slightly, but at the same time, I thought the action was pretty well handled, and I thought it was integrated pretty well into the story and the theme of, oh, Christian tries his hardest to connect with people, but really he's been only been able to be trained to connect to people kind of through these violent means, for lack of a better phrasing. But I actually have a review of this on my channel, so if you'd like to check that out, there'll be a link somewhere above if I remember to put it there. But it's a fantastic movie. I love this movie. I've seen it several times, and I definitely see it being considered one of Gavin O'Connor's lesser movies. I mean, considering that he also did Warrior, which is just excellent, and Miracle, which is one of the best sports movies ever made. I mean, someone has to take third place, I suppose. But Jacob, I also recommend you check out The Way Back, which is Ben Affleck and Gavin O'Connor again. It came out just a couple of weeks before everything shut down in 2020, and it's still my favorite movie of that year. It is fantastic. It's a
Yeah,
bit
that
brutal. It's a bit brutal to watch, but I recommend it highly.
yeah, that was a movie I was meaning to check out, but I never did, and I still haven't gotten the chance to see it. I've heard nothing but incredible things about that one. All right, what else have I seen? Another movie I checked out for the first time, and this is one I was so excited to check out for my vlog in the movie series. I went over on Netflix and watched Tick Tick Boom for the first time, the 2021 musical starring Andrew Garfield. This, of course, is based on the life of Jonathan Larson, an acclaimed Broadway playwright best known for Rent. Before going into Tick Tick Boom, aside from the fact that he created Rent, which I'm not that familiar with the exception of that classic song, 525,600
600 minutes.
Yeah, aside from that, I know nothing about Rent. This is actually more of the story of Jonathan Larson and his struggles before being the big Broadway guy. Rent is not really the focus of the story, but it does show the stuff that inspired him to create Rent and how that ended up becoming a big Broadway smash hit later in his life. This is more about his upbringing and his passion for writing music and being a big Broadway guy and the struggles that he faced throughout that. And he had this mentality that, he was close to going 30 and he feared, if he hadn't had a big hit before 30, he would struggle to be relevant or relatable or anything like that. And so there's a lot of relatability to this movie, especially, I guess, coming from us as creators. You can definitely relate to the guy's drive and passion for trying to do something bold and daring and unique. I thought Andrew Garfield was fantastic as Jonathan Larson. I actually opted not to listen to any of the songs on the soundtrack before watching the movie because people had said Andrew Garfield was fantastic. He sings really well. He was nominated for Best Actor. I'm like, I don't want to hear him sing until I watch the movie in full. That was a smart decision because Andrew Garfield blew me away. I loved his craft in the musical genre, and honestly, I would love to see him in more musical movies. I thought he was fantastic. Vanessa Hudgens is even in this movie as well. I've always been a fan of her since the High School Musical movies. She has more of a supporting player, and she's mainly just in some of the musical sequences with Andrew Garfield, but she's really good too. They actually do have some back and forth duets together, which was really awesome. I did like the story overall, considering I knew very little. I actually really enjoyed his story. The movie was also directed by Lin-Manuel Miranda in his directing debut, and I thought he did a really good job, and I'm really open to seeing him direct more movies in the future, whether musicals or whether he wants to go outside his comfort zone and make anything else. I'm really open to seeing what he does as a director in the future. I just thought this was a fantastic movie. If I had watched it in 2021, it would have made my top 10 of the year. But It's an amazing movie. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's a fantastic story. I love the songs. Andrew Garfield is amazing, one of his best performances. I cannot recommend this movie enough.
Yeah, I couldn't go a day in like the latter half of 2021 without hearing this from Rachel, who just is so in love with this movie. It's not even funny. But I have yet to see it. I've heard nothing but amazing things. I'm just glad that Andrew Garfield is getting his flowers, especially last year with being in No Way Home, and also that like people are giving him his due, and it's just very nice to see because I've I've mentioned it in other places, but I'm not a huge fan of the Amazing Spider-Man movies. I think they tried to do what the Raimi films did, but faster, and they replicated a lot of the mistakes of those movies a lot faster. But I've always maintained that Andrew Garfield was the best part of those movies, and it's been proven that he's just a great actor in Hacksaw Ridge, in this movie that I saw that nobody really talks about called 99 Homes, which he's really good in with Michael Shannon. Of course, Tick Tick Boom, which I have not seen but have heard really good things. And he's great in that Martin Scorsese movie Silence. He's phenomenal in that. So I'm just glad that 2021 was the year of Garfield. I mean, I can speak from my own experience. Both times that I saw No Way Home in theaters, when Garfield popped out of the out of the time out of the time loop,
Yeah, the
Doctor
portal.
Strange's time loop, he got the biggest pop of the night. Like people were just enthused to see him, and I kind of popped a little louder for Toby because he's my Spider-Man, so I guess I'm a bit biased in that regard. But I would be lying if I didn't notice that like Andrew Garfield is just he's just the man. He really is.
Yeah, he is such a versatile actor too. Like you can put him in musicals, you can put him in comic book movies, you could put him in faith-based movies, and he's fantastic in all of these movie roles, regardless of the quality of the movie. He always brings his A game, and I really love his commitment to acting pretty much. And I'm excited to see what he does going forward, whether we'll get another Amazing Spider-Man movie, or we'll see him in another random project like Tick Tick Boom. I am really excited what the future holds for this remarkable actor.
Yeah, he's actually in this FX show coming up called Under the Banner of Heaven. It's exclusive to Hulu, and I'm thinking about checking that out. And actually, also in 2021, he was in a movie called The Eyes of Tammy Faye, which I it was a bit disappointing. I wanted more out of it, but he was excellent there. He was unrecognizable, like just going from soft-spoken like Andrew Garfield to southern preacher kind of huckster Jim Baker. It was amazing what he was able to pull out of that.
Yeah, that was a movie I missed, but I have heard nothing but good things about that, especially Jessica Chastain's performance. I heard was really excellent. And then my recent celebrating Disney, I checked out the Disney nature film Earth. I decided to coincide it and release the video on Earth Day, which was the previous Friday as we were recording. And I have been always nostalgic for this Disney nature film. It was the first one released back in 2009. I was also nostalgic for the BBC series where this Earth movie spawned from, Planet Earth, narrated by the legendary David Attenborough. I remember seeing that for the first time in my fifth grade science class, I'd like to say, when the show was coming out. Somebody brought the big epic DVD set and we watched all 11 episodes. And I remember just being blown away by the size and scope of that series. I was blown away by the cinematography, seeing how they were able to show off these incredible creatures and the landscapes of the earth that we live in. I've always been a fan of that. And I've always been nostalgic for this Disney nature film, Earth, which is more or less a condensed version of what the Planet Earth series was, but with some new footage added in there as well. But it's still really good, even as a 90-minute documentary. What helps is the film is narrated by James Earl Jones, who I dare say is the perfect voice you could ever do for a nature documentary between him and Martin Freeman in March of the Penguins. I think this movie has great cinematography. It does a good job of showing the day-to-day lives of these creatures, like the hardships and the struggles they go through. But we also see just some really cool things that they do along the way, and I really appreciate that the movie's pretty much grounded in reality, and it shows the highs and lows of these animals and their daily struggles and challenges. And that's what you want in a nature documentary. The cinematography is breathtaking. Like there's this one shot where we see the entire ins and outs of a big waterfall. And I have always been blown away by how they pulled off that shot, especially before the drones were a thing. I'm very much blown away how they pulled that shot off, considering when it was filmed. I think this is a really good movie. It launched the Disney Nature brand, and Disney Nature has made some remarkable films ever since. But I think because I've been so nostalgic for the Planet Earth series, and this is the only Disney Nature film I've actually seen in theaters, and I remember being so blown away by seeing it on the big screen. I think Earth is still my favorite of the Disney Nature films for me personally.
Yeah, I remember seeing this in theaters as well. It was coinciding with all proceeds from ticket sales in the first weekend will go to, I can't remember the charity name off the top of my head, but it went to some kind of nature charity. I might have to look that up later. But I have a soft spot for these Disney nature movies. If not all of them, I think they're all just great. And it was actually Morgan Freeman who did March of the Penguins, not
Yeah.
Martin Freeman, who was
Oh, oops,
who
slip
was
of the tongue there. Morgan Freeman's the awesome voice. That was who I meant to say.
yeah, Morgan Freeman is just one of the best voiceover actors of all time. Don't believe me? Like watch Shawshank Redemption. I mean, his voiceover work there is fantastic. It's like my friend Andy Dufresne.
Yeah, only you can only do Morgan Freeman once, and that's the actual actor. It's hard doing a Morgan Freeman impression. I've tried; it's terrible. I've seen John Flickinger do it multiple times, and he's not that good.
Yeah, well, to be fair to him, he always calls it his terrible Morgan Freeman impression, so he never outright said, "Oh, this is the best." But I still love seeing him do it. How he gets up to close and he's like, "My name is Morgan Freeman." I just love that.
Yeah, me too.
All right,
All
what
right.
else you got?
What else have I seen? Recent video for Superhero Saturdays. I decided to start diving into some of the animated DC films on my channel. And so I decided to check out on my return to Superhero Saturdays, watch Superman Doomsday, which is the first of the long line of DC Universe animated movies, which started in 2007. And they're still making them all to this very day, whether standalone stories or an extended run of movies that share the same continuity with one another. This one, of course, is based on the classic comic book story, The Death of Superman, which was loosely adapted in some of the Zack Snyder DCU movies like Batman vs. Superman and his cut of Justice League. This movie involves Superman taking on Doomsday. He defeats Doomsday, but he dies at the hands of Doomsday in the process of it. And the world mourns Superman. Superman eventually comes back, but there's kind of a twist related to that where Lex Luthor actually creates an evil clone of Superman who people think is the real Superman. So while the real Superman is recovering from his injuries, he has to take on an evil clone of Superman in the process. And I've actually seen this film twice, and the few animated DC films I've seen, I highly respect a lot of their efforts. I think what's cool is that a lot of these animated films have a mature tone. Most of them are PG-13. Some of them are rated R. And the movies go all out in showing how violent some of these action sequences can get. And I really respect that, especially during the Superman Doomsday fight. Like, Doomsday punches Superman so hard, he starts bleeding out. And even some of his blood just splatters across Lois Lane's face. And that's something that was a bold choice for them to do visually, and I really respect that it really goes there. It's not sugarcoating anything to younger kids. It shows that, this stuff is raw and this is real, and I really respect that. I do like the voice cast in this movie. James Marsters, who I love as Spike from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, he kills it as Lex Luthor. He's a more serious Lex Luthor, and he really just shows how slimy and despicable of a character that he truly is. I forget off the top of my head who played Lois Lane, but I really liked her characterization in this movie as well. I was not that big a fan of the casting of Superman in this movie. He's voiced by Alec Baldwin. No, not Alec Baldwin. Adam Baldwin is what I meant to say. Adam Baldwin, who played the character Jane in the underrated show Firefly. I love his character Jane, who's very sarcastic and stuck up, and he always has like his own clever wits and the not to be it's hard to be trusted type character. I just couldn't really see that as Superman. Like I couldn't picture his voice with Superman, and it was distracting, and it took me out of the movie. I did say in my video, it felt more like what would have happened if Bruce Campbell had played Superman. I love me some Bruce Campbell, but I don't think Bruce Campbell would fit the role of Superman. I felt that with Adam Baldwin. I do really enjoy this movie overall. It is flawed. It's only like 75 minutes long, so some aspects of the story I feel like they could have expanded upon, and I think it would have been better. But I did enjoy this movie. I love the animation. I love the mature tone. And I did enjoy this take on the classic story. I think it's a really good movie, very underrated, definitely worth checking out.
By the way, the actor who voiced Lois Lane was Anne Hesh from movies like Volcano, Wag the Dog, and Donnie Brasco.
Huh.
But yeah, I remember watching this a very long time ago. I haven't seen it in a while. I actually have the Blu-ray on the shelf over here. I remember liking it when I did see it. The DC animated universe doesn't get talked about all that much, and I feel like it should because it's kind of like the age-old like adage of when it comes to DC, the animated stuff is more mature than the live action stuff. And during a time when it was just like bad bad choice road from like 2016 to 2018 for the DCU, I think the DCAU, I think that should have been brought more to the forefront. I would have loved if they would have done something like that, but that's not what we ended up getting. But some of my favorite DC movies are just so happen to be animated. One of my favorite Justice League movies is Justice League Doom. It's all about Batman keeping a list of how to kill each and every member of the Justice League, and how Vandal Savage, one of the Justice League's biggest villains, gets the list and uses it on all the members. And then it comes into the question of, why would Batman have to have a list like this? And so it's a lot deeper than how I describe, but I recommend that. And all of those animated movies are now on HBO Max, so I recommend everybody checking those out. And Doomsday, like I said, I remember liking it. I feel the need to rewatch it again. I also feel the need to do like a series on the channel talking about all of them, because I just feel like I would really like to do that.
Yeah, I think you definitely should, because some of these animated films are so underrated. I'll be slowly going through them on my Superhero Saturday series, and I definitely welcome you in reviewing these movies on your channel as well. I actually had a really cool comment from, I think, one of your friends, Aaron White, who's been having some really awesome comments over on my channel recently, and I loved his take on Superman Doomsday, and I just love how expansive he is in sharing his thoughts on all these movies and sharing his experiences with them. And every time I see a comment over on my channel that he writes, it always makes my day.
Yeah, God bless him. He always, like, whenever I see it, I'm like, he always loves to make me read. But I mean that in the nicest way possible,
Yeah.
because he always goes so in detail that I just love it. I love how like deep he goes. And I'm glad that he's been watching your videos as well as mine, because he's one of he's like, people should have more subscribers like him. That's all I will say.
Yep. All right. What else have I been watching? Let me. Another movie I've checked out for the first time on my Ivan Reitman director project. I finally saw the movie Stripes from 1981. This, of course, stars Bill Murray and Harold Ramis. They're two bum characters, Bill Murray more so, and he ends up losing his apartment, his girlfriend, and his job all in the same day. So he and Harold Ramis decide, well, we got nothing better to do. Let's go join the army. That's our easy way out. Well, they go in way over their heads because, well, they're in the army. It's not easy in the army, especially during boot camp and training. It's a pretty familiar story. I'm pretty sure if you've seen the Gomer Pyle show, you know where this is going to go. Bill Murray clashes with the drill sergeant, no nonsense. And there's a lot of clashes and hilarious hijinks along the way. And, you know, at the end, the characters have to show their worth and redeem themselves in a rescue mission. It's pretty much a familiar tale. This one is definitely more edgier compared to the Gomer Pyle show. This one's definitely rated R. There's a couple R-rated scenes in the movie where you're like, okay, they might have went a little too far at times. Like there's a sequence with John Candy mud wrestling. I'm like, what is this? What is it? Why is this in the movie? I don't get why that's there. I think this is one of the most unattractive things I've ever had to witness, and it went on a little too long. But yeah, that was really weird. The movie itself was a lot of fun. I thought Bill Murray was great as always in this movie. I love seeing him and Harold Ramis in a movie before Ghostbusters. I love the clash with the drill sergeant. That character was a load of fun. I always love seeing John Candy in anything. I love this ensemble cast of actors that I recognized throughout this movie. Like one of the love interests is Sean Young, who's been in like Blade Runner and Ace Ventura and other movies, and I thought she was enjoyable in this. I thought the third act is probably my least favorite aspect of the movie because it kind of ditches the comedy angle and it's more action adventure. Not that it was bad by any means, it was well made, but it's easily my least favorite aspect of the whole movie. I preferred it when it was hilariously funny. But the movie itself is still a load of fun. I do highly recommend this one. It's definitely one worth checking out if you hadn't seen it. I think when I watched it, it was on Netflix, but I saw it was leaving Netflix by the end of April, so I don't know where it's going after that. But if you can check it out, it is definitely worth watching for sure. It is a load of fun.
Hey, stewardess, is there a movie on this flight? Is there a movie on this flight? Yeah, I remember seeing this one too, and I did enjoy it. John Candy was just a national treasure. The world is crueler knowing that he is no longer with us. I mean, like everything that he did was just so funny, especially in this movie. Like I was so happy when I heard that you were going to be reviewing this, because I was waiting to see your reaction to the "lighten up, Francis" line. To be like, "Lighten up, Francis," because my dad and I love to reference that to someone who's like really like in like, it's like "Sock and we just turn to each other and we're just like, "Lighten up, Francis."
Actually, my favorite part in the movie is when they're marching for the first time. They're like, lift, 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 right, left. And then Bill and Harold go, there she was, just walking down the street, singing to what they do.
Oh man, good stuff, man. That Stripes is underrated.
That is so good. All right, and then I think um, a review that actually just dropped on my channel at the time of recording this video. I checked out the Billy Wilder comedy Irma La Deuce, which came out in 1963. This stars Jack Lemmon and Shirley MacLaine. This is like their reunion re-team after how great The Apartment was. Jack Lemmon plays a by-the-book cop in Paris, and Shirley MacLaine plays a woman named Irma, who is a prostitute living in the streets of Paris. Jack Lemmon actually falls for this woman, and he will do anything to protect her and get her out of that bad environment. This is a fascinating movie. It tackles really dark subject matter. I'm surprised they got away with exploring some of this, but Billy Wilder was also known for diving around dark subject matter in other movies at this time. So I guess it's no exception that he would dive into prostitution and disguise it as a romantic comedy. And there's some interesting stuff in there. I actually do think Jack Lemmon and Shirley MacLaine are great together again as they were in The Apartment. There's a couple funny sequences in there, one of which involves a pretty funny fight scene between Jack Lemmon's character and the pimp of Shirley MacLaine's character. That scene was hilarious. The movie, though, is 2.5 hours long. And this movie did not need to be that long. Like, the story was too thin, that it did not need to be this excessively long. And this movie honestly frustrated me at the end of the day because the movie started out really good. There were some moments that made me laugh, others that made me kind of cringe. But then the third act happens. A misunderstanding happens between our characters without diving into spoilers. And I felt like it all could have been avoided if our main character was just honest and told the truth the whole time. But because he was too stubborn to not tell the truth, like there's like this extended 30-minute climax involving him going to prison and he has to bust out of prison and make things right. And I'm like, come on, we didn't need any of this in this movie. And then the final joke in this movie made absolutely no sense to me, and it felt like I was watching a parody of a Billy Wilder film than some of the best jokes that wrapped up his movies. So all around, this movie didn't really do it for me. It's one of the more disappointing films in Billy Wilder's filmography. I have a feeling going forward, I feel like because, that new Hollywood movement is starting to creep in going into the 70s. I have a gut feeling that Billy Wilder is one of those directors to where he just couldn't adjust to some of the new generation of directors. And I have a feeling his later films are going to be very, very rough to watch, unfortunately.
Yeah, you don't really hear much after this movie, so maybe there's a reason why. I actually have not seen this. This is a rare Billy Wilder movie that I actually haven't seen. I thought I did, but it turns out no, I didn't. I've heard really good things about it, but I mean, I have seen The Apartment, and The Apartment is really, really good. If anyone here hasn't seen it, I can't recommend it enough.
And be of note, I am actually in the minority on Irma La Deuce. I think a good chunk of people I saw really liked this film. And even in 1963, it was one of the highest grossing films of that year. So there is an appreciation for this movie somewhere. And I do recommend you check it out for yourself. But I didn't get into the film personally. It's just my honest opinion.
Well, you got anything else, or is it my turn?
I think I got, actually, there's two more I'm going to share. I saw Hotel Transylvania 2 for my Sony Pictures animation series, and in my opinion, this is the best film in the Hotel Transylvania franchise. Not only do I think it's the funniest film, I just love seeing Dracula trying to do whatever he can with the grandson. He so desperately wants him to be a vampire, even though he's not prejudiced anymore. He's dead set that his grandson will be a vampire no matter what. So the great lengths he goes through to try to make him a vampire before he turns 5 is absolutely hilarious. I love the scene in the camp, and I love the fact you got Dana Carvey as the counselor of this camp. I just thought he was hilarious. It was like a good comeback vehicle for him because he disappeared for so many years. And I love seeing oh, we have this camp for vampires, and it's dumbed down compared to the camp he grew up with for legal reasons. I don't know. I just thought that was absolutely funny. I also love the addition of Mel Brooks as Vlad, Dracula's dad. I thought he was hilarious as well. There's just so many great comedic sketches in this movie that absolutely had me cracking up from start to finish. But I think the other reason this is my favorite Hotel Transylvania film, I really like the message of this movie that at the end of the day, the message of the movie is it's okay to be unique. Whether you're a human or a vampire, you're a unique creature in any way. And I like what they do with the character of Dracula's grandson at the end of this movie, Mavis. No, wait, Mavis is his daughter. I forgot his grandson's name off the top of my head. But I like the message of this movie, and I thought it did a good job of bringing that in while still keeping the entertainment value of these Hotel Transylvania movies. This one is so good. There's a really cool fight scene at the end, which has some like anime influences that I really like. I love the theme song for this movie. I'm in love, I'm in love, I'm in love with the monster. That's an absolute earworm. I do highly enjoy this one, my favorite Hotel Transylvania film. And it's one of the more underrated Sony Pictures animation films. Like, I don't get the backlash that these Hotel Transylvania films have gotten. And this one is just so good because I like the message alongside the high stakes, high energy comedy that these movies have.
Yeah, if I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. I've never understood the hate for these movies. It's probably because of the whole Adams. It's basically people look at it and think Adam Sandler is a vampire. Please, it was like that's gonna put some butts in the seat. Well, it's surprisingly good. Like all of them are. Like it just I don't know, it just feels like pretty harsh, like coming down on movies like Hotel Transylvania. It's like pick your targets a little more wisely there, will you please?
Yeah, and I sadly was in that camp for the longest time. Like, I did not want to see these Hotel Transylvania movies for years because I just was not a fan of Adam Sandler. I didn't like his style of comedy, and I thought him as Dracula would derail the movie. Well, I was proven wrong. He is great as Dracula, and this is probably my favorite comedic role Adam Sandler's ever done, and that's saying something. I think putting him in Jendy Kordakovsky's hands, it's a very fun, creative process, and I wish he did more fun roles like this, honestly.
Gendy Tarkovsky needs to be given his roses while he's still alive because that dude is so great in the animation world. He created Samurai Jack, which if any of you have never seen it, check
I
it
haven't.
out. It is fantastic. Like you said, he created Powerpuff Girls. He created the Hotel Transylvania movies. He did these Star Wars movies called Star Wars Clone Wars. They're not, or I actually think they're now on Disney Plus, but I have the DVD back on the shelf back there where it's 2 episodes, but it fills in the gaps between 2 and 3. And of course, the Clone Wars TV show would do the same thing, but you learn how General Windu basically became a windbag. You know how he was like General Kenobi.
Oh, General Grievous, you mean?
Or Grievous, yeah. But you learn how he basically has asthma in those movies, and those were all done by Tarkovsky. So he is just fantastic at what he does, and I hope that he gets more recognition.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I know last week, Ryan, you said you watched everything everywhere all at once. I actually did watch it in the theaters this week, and I agree. To date, this is my favorite film of 2022. Just edges out the Batman. I think this movie is amazing. I love the unique spin on the multiverse story. I thought the way they approached it was unique within the different universes that we see. Yes, it's weird and wacky, and it's A24 at their most A24. You have worlds where characters worship bagels. You got characters with hot dog fingers. It is so weird. I can't explain half of it, but at the center of it is a relatable family story of a woman trying to, keep her business afloat while also trying to reconcile with her family. There's a rift between her and her daughter, and she's trying to patch that up before it's too late. And I do like the movie's message about, appreciating every aspect of life. I thought that was done beautifully, especially at the end. I thought the cast was fantastic. I've always been a fan of Michelle Yeoh. in movies like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. She's also one of the more underrated Bond girls in Tomorrow Never Dies with Pierce Brosnan. I love the awesome martial arts choreography in this movie for whatever Michelle Yeoh, and also they brought back, I think I'm gonna botch this guy's name. I think it's Ki Hoi Kwan. I think is how you pronounce his name. Short Round from Temple of Doom.
There you go.
He made his comeback in Everything Everywhere All at Once, and it was a welcome return. His first action scene, which sets up the multiverse storyline, fantastic. I know he did his own stunts because I know he did some stunt work even during his retirement. So I was excited to see that in this movie. And honestly, he might have been the highlight of this movie for me. I actually really enjoyed his character and what he brought within this story, whether the main universe version or the multiverse version of him. I thought he was amazing in this film. I thought the score was really well done. The dark comedy landed for me. The action landed for me. The emotional side worked for me. I haven't seen the Daniels other movie. I know he did Swiss Army Man, but this movie is fantastic, and I'm excited to see what these two are going to bring in the future. Whether they do more weird, wacky A24 movies or they do mainstream blockbusters, because I'm sure whatever direction they do, I'm sure it's going to be a unique movie either way, and I'm excited to see what the future has for these directors. This movie is amazing.
Yeah, well, this was my favorite movie of the year, but there is another, and I guess if you're all done with your side, it's time for me to talk about what I've been watching.
All right, go ahead, Ryan.
Well, Everything Everywhere All at Once is outstanding, but there was a movie that I saw, and I kind of predicted that it would be outstanding, but yeah, I was kind of right. I ended up watching The Northman. It was excellent. This is directed by Robert Eggers. I know, Jacob, you included. Robert Eggers is not for everyone. I get it. This is his most accessible movie. It's a revenge story. People can get behind this. It's a Viking movie. It can be a little challenging. There's a lot of weird stuff in there, especially from Willem Dafoe, of course, but well, without spoiling anything, he's not in the movie super much. So if that lends anything to it, I recommend everyone go and check this out. This movie is freaky, but in the right ways, and epic in the right ways also. I think it's phenomenal. I'm going to have a full review of it up on the channel very soon. It just beats out Everything Everywhere by like a smidge. It's literally like Batman's here, Everything Everywhere All at Once is here, and then Northman's like here. It's like a horse race between the three.
All right, I will definitely give the Northman a chance whenever I get the chance. I've said time and time and again, I thought The Lighthouse was unwatchable. I tried getting into it, but I just couldn't get through that movie. As weird of a movie that is, as much as I like the two leads. As soon as they start hallucinating and we see mermaids, and I don't know what all happened on that, I'm like, I don't know what this director was on. I can't get into this movie. But I might rewatch it one of these days. We'll see. This movie intrigues me. I'm not in a super rush to see it, but I definitely do intend on checking it out. Hopefully in theaters, maybe my dollar theater. We'll see.
Well, do see it if you can. And then I also ended up seeing The Bad Guys, the new DreamWorks movie. And if DreamWorks could start making more of these movies again and less of Alec Baldwin complaining about Trump for 90 soul crushing minutes, aka The Boss Baby, that would be fantastic. Because I thought this movie was very good, that being The Bad Guys. It's very predictable. You have seen it before, but this movie's heart is as big as all outdoors. This is DreamWorks and about as going back to prime DreamWorks as you can possibly get. I think this is going to be on my underrated / overlooked list for the year.
Yeah, I actually did see The Bad Guys as well. Fun fact that me and my sister actually saw it at our old historic theater where they mainly do art house movies, but they'll do big blockbusters as well. And this was our first time going back to this theater since COVID. And that was a treat to see. I've always been a fan of this local historic theater with the old architecture, and there's balconies up top and stuff. I think they actually have the balconies closed off so they can do smaller screening rooms. They have the big auditorium for the main one. But I love this theater. I love especially their popcorn. This local theater has the best popcorn I've ever had because they put peanut oil on their popcorn, mix that with butter. It's some of the most delicious popcorn you'll ever eat. But back to the bad guys. This movie was awesome. It's one of the best DreamWorks movies in quite a few years. I love the stylish animation. All the characters are fun. It's pretty much the Ocean's trilogy for kids, and I love that. I think the voice cast delivered, especially Sam Rockwell as the wolf. I actually really like the message of this movie, the don't judge a book by its cover message. I thought that was done very well. There's one or two twists in this movie that were very predictable. That's probably my biggest gripe with this movie. There's like one that's like staring at you right in the face, and I'm like, as soon as I saw this character, I knew that twist, and I that was the most obvious one in the whole movie. When you see the character, I think you'll know it when you see it. But there's other twists that really surprised me as well. So it was a really good mix. I thought it was a really good DreamWorks movie. I don't think it's in my like top 10 DreamWorks movies, but it's still a load of fun, and it's one of their better movies. Probably their most enjoyable movie since How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World. Not on that level, but it's the most enjoyable movie they've had since then. I think it's great.
It's definitely them getting back into their stride, if nothing else, and I recommend everyone check that out. And then, just to complete the hat trick, I said I would see all three, and by some minor miracle, I ended up seeing all three.
You
I
did.
saw
All right.
I saw The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, the new Nicolas Cage movie, and I'm not sure if this is on my favorite movies of the year list so far, but the more I think about it, it's definitely in the conversation. I loved this movie a lot more than I thought I would. It's not just a Nick Cage is a meme movie. They actually try to tell a story. And at first I was like, movie, are you trying to make me feel? Please don't do that. I'd just rather have Nick Cage just reference Con Air, please, because he actually does in a pretty funny way, because it's shown in the trailer, but Pedro Pascal's character is this big shrine to Nick Cage where it's got posters and replicas, and there's the bunny from Con Air, and he's like, oh, bunny, and then Nick Cage does the put the bunny back in the box, which is really funny. And then there's also a reference to The Wicker Man. I won't say where, but you'll know when you hear it. It's really funny. But it actually does a good job of doing a story in the realm of let's celebrate slash poke fun at Nick Cage and his wacky existence. I admire it. I admire the spirit here. It's it's definitely, some jokes are going to be a little too in the know for some, but if you are in the know, you're going to love it.
Yeah, I am excited to check this movie out. I'm actually more excited to see this over the Northman, honestly. I'm such a fan of Nicolas Cage. I hope to see it real soon. I can't wait to check it out. I've heard nothing but great things about it. I think last I checked, I don't know if there's any it's dropped or anything, but I think it has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, if I'm not mistaken. So people are loving this movie, and I'm excited to celebrate the insanity of the Cage.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at Rotten Tomatoes because it's going to tie into the main event for the evening, and let me just take a quick look see. It is at 88%.
Oh,
So
it did drop. It was
it
at 100 the other day.
it did drop slightly, but I mean 88% is
That's
nothing.
still really good. All right, what
And
else have you watched?
and the last thing before we do move on, I saw Basic Instinct for my Sunday video. This is the Paul Verhoeven movie, and it is primarily known for that scene where Sharon Stone's gets shown for a brief second. The movie is definitely, without that scene, it's your standard kind of noir style movie. And so with that, it adds a bit of notoriety. But at the same time, I thought this movie was very well made. That being said, though, it's not my favorite Paul Verhoeven movie. I still think it's RoboCop, but like I said, I still think it was very well shot, well acted. I have a full review on it on the channel, so do check that out if you so desire.
Yeah, I haven't actually seen this movie, but it actually looks pretty interesting the way you were describing it.
Yeah, it is. It was especially surprising researching for the review because of the history of, was Sharon Stone in the know about the shot? Was she not told? It's a bit of a he said, she said type of scenario. And of course, I wasn't even there, so I can't say who's right and who's wrong. But it's just, you could almost make a movie about the making of that movie and that whole scenario.
Yeah, especially this day and age, that would make for a fascinating movie.
Absolutely. But let's dive into talking about some Moon Knight and some Daredevil stuff. First up, Moon Knight episode 4. We both ended up watching it. When this episode was over, I was like, "Oh, I can't wait to talk about this one with you. I can't wait to hear his thoughts on it." So, you have the floor. What are your thoughts?
All right, so this episode went in directions that I would not have even guessed where the show was going to go, because it sets up the whole action adventure stuff. They go in an old ancient temple. You got Oscar Isaac and Layla. They're looking for that tomb, and there's some secrets that are explored. Layla discovers that Mark may have been involved with her father's death. That was a pretty interesting secret, and I'm very much intrigued where that's going to go, whether he actually killed her or he was just a witness. It'll be interesting where that goes. I'm still a fan of Oscar Isaac in this series. I love the alternation between personalities with Mark and Steven. That's always been fun to watch throughout the course of the series. And the more I see Ethan Hawke as the Hammond character, the more and more I really enjoy his character and where that's leading. And then the last act of this episode, we're meant to believe that Hammond killed our main character and he's slowly drowning. And I'm like, wait, they kill the Moon Knight 3/4 of the way through? And then it cuts to a movie starring an actor named Steven. I'm like, okay, where is this going? And then we go in this like mental institution type place, and I'm like, oh, that's where we're going with this. So he was making all this up the whole time. There's parts of this where it completely threw me in for a loop. I wasn't expecting it to go this route, to where it sounds like he was delusional the whole time and was making up this whole adventure, and he's like hallucinating like Egyptian gods and stuff along the way, and that Ethan Hawke is actually like a psychologist and Layla is like his doctor. I have no idea where this is going to go now. But with that complete 180 twist shift or whatever, I am definitely excited to see the last 2 episodes to see how they're going to wrap it up. I don't know where it's going to rank in the overall MCU ranking, because this is like the most unpredictable Disney Plus show to date. I hope it sticks the landing. I hope it doesn't be like WandaVision, where I loved the build-up, but the payoff was very underwhelming. I hope it actually pays off in the end. I guess we're just going to have to see 2 weeks from now. This one was crazy.
Yeah, and it ain't nothing like seeing the very end of an episode, this hippopotamus in Egyptian garb going, "Hi!"
Hey.
and two Oscar Isaacs going, "Ah!"
As soon as I saw that, I knew that was going to be memed all over the place.
And it was. It was like that whole like last 15, 20 minutes where Mark is in the insane asylum. I was like, this is drugs. This is your brain. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions? I have a feeling I think I might know where this is heading, but at the same time, I got to give these creators credit. They they managed to swerve us, and I think it's been pretty well received. So, like I said, I hope the landing sticks because I haven't been a tremendous fan of the endings of these shows. WandaVision comes to mind, which I was not entirely enthused over the ending. The rest of the series is good. The ending, not so much. But have you all seen Moon Knight episode 4? Leave your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to read what you have to say about it. Now let's talk about Daredevil episode 5. And I honestly forgot about this one. Not forget about the episode in general, but like, I forgot about just some of the stuff that happened here because this is a very very brutal episode on the whole. What did you think about it?
Actually, I think we're watching episode 6. You said 5.
Oh, you're right. It's 9:30. I'm super tired, but
That's
episode,
all right. I wanted to bring that up. This is episode 6, not episode
I called you out on the Morgan Freeman
4.
thing. So we are now
It's all coming full circle.
we are now even as of this point. What did you think of
All
episode
right.
6?
It was so good. I was glued to my screen from start to finish. I like that it carries over where that last episode left off. I like that it's mainly an intense standoff between Daredevil and Fisk. I thought that was incredible. I like the whole interesting situation with the Russian that he actually is trying to save so we can get information. And I like some of the ethical choices, because he could have easily killed this guy because he brutally assaulted Rosario Dawson's character, and there was friction between him and her and Rosario over that. I'm like, why are you keeping this guy alive who kidnapped me and beat me up? It's like, well, I need him so I can get closer to the real enemy. And I was like, okay, there's some really awesome morals and morality and ethics in this situation. I am really digging that. All the performances are great. I love the standoff. I love that we actually have a conversation between Daredevil and Fisk for the first time. That was awesome. It wasn't face to face; it was over the phone, but it was still awesome. And I'm sure it's going to be more intense when we see him face to face eventually. I enjoyed all the many layers of this episode. It's setting up things I'm excited to see going forward, where Fisk is framing Daredevil for some of the crimes he's causing, and now Daredevil has to go against many other characters they didn't really want to face off against. Like, he's now going after some of the corrupt cops that are on Wilson's payroll. I'm excited to see more action sequences in Daredevil going forward. The action in here was absolutely brutal, especially when the Russian guy is critically injured. He takes like a blowtorch-like thing to tend his wounds. I'm like, that's bad. Oh, I was a little squeamish throughout certain parts of the episode, but it was really good. It's a really strong action-centric episode, and much like I said in last week's podcast, when this episode ended and Daredevil's about to really do his stuff, I was like, I got to see the next one, but I got to wait till we record. Oh, it's so good. I'm loving this show, man.
Yeah, the next episode we're going to be introduced to the character Stick. I'm not sure if you're ready for that, but save that for when you see it. But
No
this is
spoilers, please.
no. You can count on me for that. But what did you think of Ben Urich here? He is actually doing something now.
Yeah, I like seeing him, go more out in the field more often and clash with some of the corrupt reporters and detectives that aren't really doing their job real well. And he's trying to stand up for what's right. I actually did enjoy his character a little bit. almost reminded me of Clark Kent in a lot of ways. I thought he was really good. His character is growing on me the more I'm seeing him in this show. I wasn't a fan of how he was introduced. I thought the subplot was not interesting at first when they were connecting it to like his personal life and whatever, and like his wife in the hospital. I'm like, okay, this is a little slow. But then once we actually see him in action, I actually really like his character, and he's a pretty good addition to an already stacked cast.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and I love how Fisk ends the conversation where he's like, "I'm afraid this is the last time we will be speaking," and I'm like, "Oh, you have no idea." Yeah, the devil's going to be a thorn on your side for quite some time, my friend.
I can't wait to see this clash. I know it's going to be epic.
Yeah, well, what did you all think of this episode if you have seen it? Leave your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear about them as well. Let's dive into the main event of the evening. Let's talk about Netflix. Netflix is having a bit of a rough go of it as of late, this past week. And I found this article on Rotten Tomatoes is actually an editorial that I will pull a direct quote from. Netflix, long sitting atop the streaming world with popular titles like Stranger Things and The Witcher, had a rough week. First, the company reported its first subscriber loss in more than a decade, dropping 200,000 subscribers in the first quarter of 2022, followed by a 35% stock price drop. Now, I am no stock man. I don't even play one on television, but 35% drop is not good. And not to mention, they're predicted to lose even more subscribers. Somewhere in the ballpark of like 2 million, if my figure is correct. I'll have to look that up later. But I remember I was watching earlier today a video from a channel called Captain Midnight. He does fantastic videos. He did one on the Sci-Fi Channel and how it's like his favorite channel, but it's also frustrating because they create some great shows and like Sharknado. And so there's that. But he created a video in early 2020 called Netflix is in trouble, or Why Netflix Will Fall. And this was before they were going to lose Friends and The Office to HBO Max and Peacock respectively. He made a follow-up video to it called Netflix is in Trouble. It's basically him saying, I told you so. And so here we are with Netflix losing like their shirt pretty much, and you hear all these reports about various deaths and all. Jacob, let's unpack this. What do you think?
Yeah, when I heard they were losing stuff, losing subscribers and stocks, a part of me was shocked, and another part of me was like, I shouldn't be surprised by this because I know what some of the complaints against Netflix are. Some have complained, of the high subscription prices compared to other streaming services. I think Netflix, if I'm not mistaken, is like the most expensive streaming service out there. I think it's like $20 a month, if I'm not mistaken. Compare that to like Disney Plus, where it's like $8.99 a month. Like you can pay for what you want on Disney Plus at like half the price or lower than half the price. And a lot of the other streaming services are cheaper than that. Hulu's like $6.99 a month, and HBO Max is a little more expensive, but it's like $15 a month. And I feel like the content on HBO Max, there's a lot more catalog content on HBO Max that you can consume. I feel like more than Netflix half the time, which is I think become more and more original content, and that leads to I think the second reason why this didn't surprise me is their business route is so weird. They are going quantity over quality. And I think when you invest in greenlighting whatever comes your way and you don't make quality movies or shows related to that, it's going to turn off your core audience. Like there's so much movies on Netflix, and I've seen some of these movies. Some of them are okay, but there's others that are pretty disposable and forgettable after you watch them, whenever they initially drop. Like there's some that I had seen. Like, there's some I've seen before that I think I had given original praise to, but then I look back on these fonts and I'm like, I don't remember half of this movie. I'm like, why did I give it this high a score? And that just shows, how unremarkable some of these Netflix movies actually are. And they've had some stinkers after stinkers. There are some really bad movies that drop on the streaming service just because they want as much content on their streaming service as possible so that the lucky people can check some of these movies out, whether they're actually good or not. Now, there's quality movies on Netflix, yes. I'll praise a Netflix movie when I see them. I mean, I talked about Tick Tick Boom earlier on the podcast. That movie's amazing. I love The Mitchells versus the Machines from Sony Animation. That dropped on Netflix. It was my favorite movie of 2021. I love movies like Gerald's Game is fantastic. I love Over the Moon, another animated movie. There's so many other good movies on there as well. The Trial of the Chicago Seven is excellent. Pieces of a Woman is excellent. The Irishman from Martin Scorsese. Maybe not my favorite of his, but it's still a really, really good movie. There's good stuff on there. And when Netflix invests in quality, there's good stuff. But on the flip side, they just invest in some of the strangest stuff that's going to turn people off. Like they invested in that weird movie Cuties, which was about, I think, child sexualization or whatever. And that turned so many people off. I think some people walked away from Netflix when that movie came out. And there's so many other movies out there that, people either forget or they're notoriously bad that they're like, I don't want to be associated with these movies. I'm just going to drop Netflix because these movies and shows are not that good. And then, like you said, Ryan, they had essentially when Netflix started, they started out as a DVD service and you could rent and check out anything. But now that they're a streaming service and they have a lot of competition and there's licensing, some of the shows they originally had are now in the hands of the studios that have their own streaming service. Like you brought up Friends, that's over on HBO Max now. And The Office is now over in Peacock. Those were like very well watched then shows on Netflix. And now that they're not on Netflix anymore, there's no replacement for that. I think it's just Netflix relying more on original content. I think it's going to be interesting seeing where Netflix is going to go going forward because when they deliver on quality, it's actually really good. And some of their shows have been fantastic, especially Stranger Things. And I think if they commit to those shows, maybe they can have a chance, but I think they need to prioritize their content. Don't greenlight everything just to see what fits. Invest in talent, invest in the right people, invest in the right scripts, and you'll thrive. It's easy as that. Maybe try to solve some of your financial situations while you're at it too. And I think if you're able to do all those things, I think you'll be able to thrive and survive. If you keep going in the direction you're going, then I don't know what to say. I think you're gonna keep losing a lot of stuff, unfortunately.
I can't remember where I read this, but in this upcoming season of Stranger Things, it was like $30 million per episode. And
Yeah, I think I've read that. I was like, whoa, they're
my
really committed.
my mind was blown when
I'm
I
like,
read that. I was just because Netflix really doesn't do a ton of marketing. Like there's ad-free options. Like it just I remember listening to a podcast that my friend Rachel did on Rachel's Reviews. I believe it was the female film critics panel that she does. And they were talking about it and she was perplexed. She was like, how do they do marketing? I don't understand this. And in the article I read, there was this Q1 conference call that Netflix did, and they were talking about how the problems included, the sharing of the passwords, that's the problem. Like,
eh,
that ain't it, Chief.
I don't think that's it. I think there's more to it than that.
Yeah, and it also came out later that animation there is going to be like shrunken down to nothing, which just makes me so sad because Klaus is a movie that's really good, and
Yeah.
on top of others, it just I feel like it's like they need help figuring out where the pulse is so that they can attribute their own problems. It's like trying to fix trying to put a band-aid on a wound that needs life support.
Yeah, it is so fascinating seeing where all this is going. I'm kind of intrigued to see what Netflix is going to do going forward, whether they can bounce back from this or they're just not going to recover and it's going to be the beginning of the end. But I think what's intriguing me most is, if Netflix goes, where's where's their content going to go? Are other studios going to pick them up? Or are they just going to be left in the dust? I think that's what's going to intrigue me about this, if that's going to be the case.
Yeah, and like you brought up just earlier, there are so many streaming services out there, like literally just on my iPad that I was reading this off of. You got Disney Plus, HBO Max, Peacock, Hulu, Amazon Prime, Discovery Plus, and that's literally just naming like the paid stuff. Paramount Plus, it's literally just naming the paid stuff. There's smaller stuff like Pluto TV, which has some pretty good stuff, and Tubi, which Rachel and I have done a couple of episodes of our Hidden Gems podcast on. And that side, the Tubi is super overlooked. Like if you go there and you poke around long enough, you're gonna find something you like. So, and not to mention how many things there are there, but just how diverse it is. If you want like more art house stuff, go to Criterion Channel or Canopy, something like that. If you want more mainstream stuff, and it's split off into various things. Disney, Disney Plus, Paramount, Paramount Plus. Like Amazon has a more of a mixed bag, but like if you're looking for more like MGM stuff, because Amazon owns MGM now, then that's there. It's becoming more it's becoming more diverse now in terms of which content goes where, which content goes over there, using more rights to their advantage. It's more like a let's just see what happens. No, it's just like we'll take that back, we'll take that back, we will be taking this back also, and they're just packaging it all together. And so it's just I don't want to say Netflix feels obsolete, but it almost feels like getting to the point of it being obsolete, which, like you said, it'd be sad because another movie that you didn't mention, but I love is a movie called El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie, which is like the perfect ending to Breaking Bad. I mean, the Felina ending to Breaking Bad was excellent, but it ended the Jesse character in about as perfect a fashion as you can ask for. That wouldn't be possible without Netflix. So I'm not like dancing on Netflix's grave, for lack of a better term. But it just kind of feels like a third wheel at this point. I mean, if that's even fair to say.
Yeah, it is so sad. I saw the headline of an article earlier today, and it said even the employees at Netflix, they were, I think, a week ago, happy about being in their position at this really high rated streaming service. But now that the stocks have dropped and they've lost subscribers, now a lot of them have felt depressed and disheartened, and they're unsure of where Netflix is going to go from here. It is a very sad situation. I really hope that they can find ways to improve and bounce back up, but it doesn't surprise me at this point if they continue to make bad decisions. I think it's going to cost them at the end of the day. But considering Netflix was like the one that was like the pioneer of the streaming service, like I was like kind of shocked that the Netflix, if they're the one that falls first, that's like probably the biggest shot in the foot right there, considering they're the ones that kind of revolutionized the idea of a streaming service. It is an interesting story to keep paying attention to see what happens, whether they'll make it or not.
Are you familiar with the meme of the girl like kind of looking off like that as like a house is on fire? Are you familiar with
Yeah,
that one?
yeah. I think I've seen that.
Well, there's a meme of the Netflix stock price going way down, and then the little girl's face is replaced with the Blockbuster logo because
Oh yeah.
because Blockbuster is non-existent pretty much thanks to Netflix, and so it's like, well, you reap what you sow.
Ain't that the truth?
But but I turn it over to you all watching this. If you would like to chime in on this Netflix thing, leave your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to read what you would have to say about that. And well, I think it's a pretty good place to wrap things up. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Jacob, thank you so much as always. It's a pleasure. Where could people find you?
People can find me on Letterboxd, Twitter, Facebook, and you can subscribe to my 2 YouTube channels. I have a second YouTube channel called Storytime with Jacob where I do book reviews and read-alongs. At the time of this video, I actually just finished Fantastic Mr. Fox by Roald Dahl. Very short read. It's almost like a short story. It took me 3 days to read it. It is interesting, especially when you compare it to the Wes Anderson film. The Roald Dahl book is definitely more smaller scale compared to what Wes Anderson did with the story. And honestly, it's one of the rare cases where I would say the movie is way better than the book. It's really interesting when you dive into the original book because I had never read it before. But I do have read alongs and I'll have a book review on Fantastic Mr. Fox as well and other stuff coming to that channel real soon. Of course, on my main channel, I do movie reviews, TV reviews, ranking videos, and other fun stuff along the way. Some exciting content that's just recently dropped on my channel or stuff I've already talked about. Ryan and I just did a spoiler live review of Wes Anderson's Moonrise Kingdom. We had a great chat talking about that amazing movie. I did a vlog reaction video to Tick Tick Boom. I've reviewed Earth for my Celebrating Disney series. I've recently covered Superman Doomsday. I've reviewed The Accountant, Stripes, Irma La Deuce, Hotel Transylvania 2, and other upcoming videos coming to the channel. I got a video where my sister reacts to Zombieland Double Tap for the first time. She reacted to the first Zombieland earlier this year, so now she's going to react to the sequel. And I got other content coming on the channel real soon, whether movie reviews, TV reviews, or whatever. I also have a live stream coming to my channel this Thursday with another YouTuber. Q Reviews is the name of the channel, and we'll be talking about the next Ivan Reitman film, which is Ghostbusters, which my collaborator guest, the Q Reviews, he's like the biggest Ghostbusters fan I know. So we're going to have a big epic discussion about Ghostbusters coming to the channel this week. Actually, I think I said 8. I think it's going to be 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. I'm still figuring out the time between my schedule and his schedule, but it's coming Thursday night, whatever time that's going to be. I'm excited for that discussion and the other content coming on my channel this week and whatever comes next. I'm excited.
Yeah, definitely subscribe over to him. I was the grateful guest to be over there to talk about Jupiter Ascending and Moonrise Kingdom on 2 separate live streams over the past couple Thursdays. Had a lot of fun doing that, so definitely subscribe to him on both of those channels. As for this channel, coming up this week, I already dropped a Twilight Zone vlog talking about the episode called Back There. It was a lot of fun doing that. And then in the next couple of days, I would like to be reviewing Memory, the Liam Neeson movie, just to see what that would be like. And then on Sunday, I will be dropping my review for the 1992 film Chaplin, starring a pre-Robert De Niro, a pre-Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr.
It's like, where's De Niro coming from?
I don't know, but that review will be on the channel this coming Sunday. And if you like this video, please be sure to leave a like. And if you want to see more videos like this, do hit the subscribe button and click the bell to allow notifications. That way, whenever a new video drops, you'll be the first to know about it. That's Jacob Martin. My name is Ryan Cam. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.